Hey YouTube, I'm back. Yeah, I had a little bit of a hiatus. I had made a lot of my videos private for a while. I didn't know what I was going to do with my channel, but I recently saw a video by one YouTuber I'm subscribed to, Toby Kid Major. She's been growing up, and I appreciate that she's willing to put that on YouTube for the public, because I see a little bit of myself in her, notwithstanding the gender difference. I mean, there is that, but I just see a lot of similarities, and I like to see the kind of things she's going through and the kind of person she's becoming. But there was this one YouTuber who had a very similar idea, only he's incredibly racist. And what he did was he put a response video to her, or he made a comment. I don't think she was very clear on that. Yeah, I think it was a full video. And he was telling her about how she should have white babies. That was like the main thrust of his message. And he linked about 3 videos in his low bar, and she linked those videos too because she was disgusted, felt like she wanted to take a shower just for him being a fan. And, well, Toby Kid Major, thank you for linking those videos, because they're so stupid. They're so incredibly lame and wrong, and I just felt that that was a gift. YouTube couldn't have said it clearer. Here, have this. And so I'm going to make a response video to these. And I will have links in the low bar so you can join in the laughs. Well, the first video, if you've ever heard of, what was it, Rabbit Radio TV? It's like, yeah, White Rabbit Radio TV. I was looking at my notes. That's what I was looking at down there. And it's basically a little bit of fiction, historical fiction. If Hitler had not died after World War II, but had actually gone to Argentina to think about his stuff, and he had become an anti-racist. And basically, if you don't want this spoiled for you, go and watch the video now, because I'm going to keep on with it and I don't care about spoilers right now. So, the way this video goes is that Hitler decides that he's now part of the Children of the Rainbow organization, and he wants, as his main goal, his main project is to get Israel integrated and diverse. And what this White Rabbit Radio kid thinks, I don't think he's actually a kid, he's probably older than I am. I'm 26, by the way. I know I don't look it, but that's where it is. He's probably older than I am, but he's under the impression that what Hitler would do if he were smart in exterminating the Jews is have a whole bunch of non-Jewish people migrate over into Israel. And this is one of the funniest things. He thinks that there's literally a border switch. He uses this animation where Hitler just throws a switch and the borders to Tel Aviv open up, and there's this crowd of non-Jewish people standing outside. Immediately after the doors open up, they're running in! They're running in! And it's like a zombie apocalypse scene, only everybody's living, and they're just children of the rainbow. It is so ridiculous. It's so filled with hyperbole. It's hyperbolic. Full of hyperbole. But anyways, he encourages Jews to integrate with non-Jews through marriage and dating, and he talks about love, because we know yes, I'm going to get into some Myers-Briggs. Hitler has been called an NF, and it's, whether you believe in Myers-Briggs or not, I don't really believe in it. I think it's good as a point of language. It gives me a way to describe it. He's seen as an NF, and so he's all about love, and I love how they showed that. I love how they showed that. But they think that through dilution, over the course of 15 years, because that's how this video goes, over the course of 15 years, through dilution and immigration, Hitler's gonna wipe out the Jews! Stupid. It's stupid. Let me check my notes again. Brown people are always standing outside. They strawman the arguments. Hitler does these speeches where he gives these most dry, lame versions of what I believe are really strong arguments. Is diversity is a strength. Diversity is what makes the Middle East so peaceful. Firstly, no. I don't even know if liberals say diversity is what makes the Middle East peaceful. No one says the Middle East is peaceful. That is a straw man. And they use several ways of illustrating diversity. And one thing, which I thought was funny, Hitler was like, you have so many different restaurants to enjoy. And they have the Chinese restaurant, the Indian restaurant, the Middle Eastern restaurant. It's like he's fixated on the restaurants, because they come back to it like once or twice. And the Jews, his strawman Jews, because I don't know if Jews really say this. I think they really say this. But they definitely talk about having their own country, to have their own culture and their own ethnicity there. But what they keep coming back to is they keep trying to stick Hitler on the idea that he's committing a genocide. He's committing a genocide. I have nothing else to say on that. But, well, actually I have one more thing to say about that. At the end of the video, they have that 15 years later thing, and there's this one Jew just running up to Hitler's office, and here's how they show that they really are racist. I mean, by itself it could just be a joke, but in context, he gets up there, and in spite of all the legal requirements that Israel have mandatory military service, and that the Jews actually have a cardiorespiratory system and everything, he gets up to the office and says, "Oh my God!" like he's all those. Like his lungs are just the capacity of his sinuses. Like I said, this is stupid. And that was just the first video. And the Jew says, "Well, you said that you were gonna get rid of us." In the 30s he did. What he says is, "So you wanted to get rid of us? Well, you made it happen. Because I'm the only Jew left." And Hitler says, "Well, nobody could have seen that coming." That was just the first video. The first video. And it got a lot of likes, I think, from people like me, who has 2 thumbs and does not care about the message they were trying to send. This guy. They disabled comments. I think still, and I'll leave a comment, I'll leave a little thing up on the screen if I ever change my mind on this, but I still believe that they blocked all the comments because people were saying, "Yeah, I agree with Hitler." But not about exterminating Jews. It won't exterminate the Jews, but otherwise, I agree with Hitler. But I couldn't comment on that video directly, so this is the only place I can comment on. There is another video. Gotta check my notes again, because This is so emotional. I can hardly keep a train of thought. The next video by This Is Europa, clearly also racist, is about white flight and cultural extinction. Yes, they're fixated on these themes. This is Europa, his message, and here's your chance to not get spoilers. Okay, so the main thrust of his video is that throughout Europe and the Americas, they say all the white countries, forgetting that all the Americas have white people. All of them. North, Central, South, the Caribbean, the whole new world has demographics based largely upon European colonialism. But they say all and only white nations are being forced to integrate non-white people. And they have a very black and white mentality in all their imagery. There's the white nations, and all the people in it are depicted as white, and then there are the non-white race countries where everybody is depicted as black. And when you see the video, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's like so black and white, like there's just no mixing or middle ground. If you have that guy in the woodshed 10 generations back, you Dixie lovers know what I'm talking about, then you black, son. You black. They just think it's either all white or all black, and they say non-white. That's their code word. They're afraid of, well, maybe not just black people, but they're afraid of minorities, and they think they're all black or something. It's very black and white thinking, and it's completely stupid. So they come back to this idea of being a minority in our own country, and their culture being outcompeted by the other cultures coming in. Well, according to some other people I've heard from, it's, I don't have like one particular source, but I've talked to people about non-white people in the UK, because they use the UK as a big example. They keep coming back to it, the UK. And they become distinctly British unless they're in pretty much all Islamic communities. And that is a problem in the UK from the data I've seen. It, like the 7/7 bombers, they come from these very cloistered communities where just about everyone's non-white. And I'm going to get back to that. Just let me finish this. Oh, their message is that we're being overrun with forced migration based on this conspiracy. And so they hate the idea of being a minority. They're so afraid of being a minority. And they keep coming back to it. They're fixated on it. They're just so afraid of being a minority. Throughout the video, it's like 21 minutes long. And they don't understand why migration has happened. They think it's being forced. They think that it's forced migration. They think that people are just being placed here against their will. Incentives can be set up so that mass behavior is much more predictable and much better controlled than any individual's behavior. So while one individual may not be controlled, mass behavior could still be controlled. But they don't offer that nuance, and it doesn't even really matter because this isn't the thing that's going to kill you. No one's committing genocide, but they hate the idea of being a minority. They don't understand migration goes from poor countries to rich countries, either through refugees or people who they try to graduate out of it. They get a skill, they get a degree, and they go to these richer countries. I see it in America, where I am. There are a number of black people straight out of Africa. They didn't come through triangular trade. They came within the last generation. And you see them a lot of times in business suits because they're businessmen, they're lawyers or doctors or whatever. Doctors can pretty much go anywhere, can't they? Everywhere needs doctors. So they go from poor countries to rich countries. And these guys keep coming back. No one's trying to make China less Chinese. You don't even know what Chinese is, ethnically. Most Chinese are Han Chinese. Most Chinese are one ethnicity, but there are a lot of ethnic groups in China. And while the communist government has been trying to bring the Han population out to the provinces to try and, I don't want to say whiten up the areas, though China does seem to prefer lighter skin tones. It's still yellowed, but lighter skin tones. I think Europeans and in the Americas was the place where the term white came from. I don't think the Chinese actually have that concept in their mainstream. They actually have whitening creams as one of their beauty products. And it's not because of us. I don't think it's because of us. It's because having a tan is seen as you work in the fields. That's what I hear from people who have been to China and they talk about these things. It's a sign of poverty. But at the same time, a lot of those minorities are coming to the eastern seaboard of China largely as migrant workers. And you see the same kind of diversity mixing in China that you see anywhere else. And that's just within the Chinese. There are also people in China and Japan, I'll get to that, living and working there. Well, that was an edit. Yeah, there were a lot of jump cuts in there. But I really wanted to get back to this point, and I wanted to put it somewhere where it would be fresh in your mind. And, yeah. Well, about Japan. Japan also has people living and working there from foreign countries. I think there are a lot of places like that, actually. A lot of rich countries. It goes from poor to rich. Poor to rich. But they have a lot of the same problems that China does where foreigners are concerned. And Japan actually has, for this one guy I talked to on the subway, I'm sure he was very reliable, that you can't just immigrate to Japan. You can live there, you can work there for a while, you have a job, but you have to be born in Japan to be Japanese. And that's apparently their thing. Anyway, I should probably look this up. I'll probably put a link to it. But, yeah, they have fairly closed borders on that front, but their borders aren't really closed. It's kind of a mistake to say that their borders are closed because you can still go there, and there still is racial intermixing, and there's still babies being born in both China and Japan who are not all Chinese or Japanese respectively. So their argument falls entirely flat on all those fronts. Even when they talk about Africa, no one's trying to make Africa less African. Well, there was a time we were trying to save Africa from the Africans. Save Africa from the Africans. That was the line that they used when a lot of white people tried to colonize the place. It's not based on this little conspiracy theory thing they've got going. It's based on the geopolitics at the time. And again, it goes from poor to rich, except when white people were colonizing Africa, it's because they were trying to get the natural resources. China's trying to get the natural resources from Africa right now, and that's a whole other story. But they're not doing it through colonization. It's its own thing. And they're afraid, in this video too, of mixed race based. Something I didn't mention before. Not all DNA is carried in the nucleus. There is such a thing as mitochondrial DNA. It has to do with how we process energy. It's stored in the mitochondria and it's pretty much exclusively passed on by the mother. There's no dilution throughout the generations. The most that can happen is like if the tail of the sperm cell partially gets in or entirely gets into the egg cell, then some of the mitochondrial DNA of the father can be transported into some of the mitochondrial of the child, but it's not a total mixing. It doesn't mix completely and then form a solution. So you're not going to lose your genetic purity, at least in that sense, through the matrilineage. You're not going to lose this matrilineage no matter how many black guys put their dicks in your women. Yeah, you can dilute the white race just as the Aryan race used to exist. There used to be an Aryan race, but more than just a few generations ago, it was diluted out. There are no pure-blooded Aryans at all. And this was even in Hitler's time. So what they're defending, this kind of purity that they're defending, doesn't even exist. And a good example is with Native Americans, and yes, they have had a lot of trouble with the SARS blankets and not just disease, but I've heard reports of them being exterminated in a number of ways throughout my childhood. This was part of the education program, and also there are other sources out there. They're at the point where they have to have mixed race. It's just a matter of, if they want to survive as a culture, they do have to mix. Because if they try to inbreed out of it, they're going to get sick and die. And the reason why I'm saying this is because that's what would happen to anyone. There is no lineage that you can just keep pure and pure and pure throughout all time and not mix it. So it's perfectly natural for one, racial mixing. Racial mixing is directly natural. And two, what's natural is that racial purity is a concept that is completely ephemeral, because the racial makeup of your ethnicity came from a mixture of others and will become a mixture of others. Just the UK as an example. The Angles and the Saxons displaced the Celts into Wales, largely, and then the French came in with William of Normandy, and down the line we have what we have now. There were also the Norse with the Vikings, like Mackenzie, my name. That's my Scottish heritage. A Scottish part of my heritage, and it was a mix of Nordic Viking heritage and native Scottish heritage that moved into the lowlands. That's the Mackenzie clan. There's no such thing as purity. And in the second video, this is more an argument from authority, so I'm going to separate it from my other arguments. But in the video, they try invoking Fox News to make their point. And it kind of backfires, because as soon as I hear Fox News, my bullshit radar gets turned up. I don't automatically discount whatever they say, but I'm just waiting to hear the bullshit, because I know it's there somewhere. And I thought it was hilarious how they did this. Also, before I forget, there was a third video. There was a third video. It was a really short one. It was extremely filled with hyperbole. It was so hyperbolic. And link is in the description, so if you don't want it spoiled. Okay, here we go. It was about how rapes sometimes occur, and yes, rapes sometimes occur. They have been linked to gangs of minorities in, say, Sweden or Denmark or whatever, where these immigrant populations think they can get away with gang raping women, and they have their own mentality or something. But it was basically where there was this pattern of immigration, and all of a sudden these really racist depictions of black people were walking up to this sweet-looking white girl, and Captain Sweden comes in to save the day. But how he saves the day is by taking the dicking for the woman, and she says, "Oh, so tolerant." And then the Muslim comes in and just starts being creepier on her before he cuts her throat. And having it described is almost not worth it. I almost think I shouldn't include this part because it's almost not worth it. But I mean, I'm gonna link it, and so that's my synopsis. And if you don't understand how it's stupid and ridiculous, then that's a matter of us just disagreeing on the facts. But anyways, I have a lot of editing to do, and there are a couple things that I kind of need to get back to, so I'm cutting off the video here. Thanks for listening, everybody. Bye.